Wisteria, energy, twister.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the Encyclopedia of the Fairies. We're now on fairy kings. They're less often found in folklore as anecdotes than fairy queens. There are some stories featuring fairy kings. There's the ballad, obviously, of Alice Brand, where we see a fairy king referenced, and the Scottish witch Isabel Gowdy also mentions a fairy king. Irish folklore mentions various named fairy kings, including Finnabera. But the queens are definitely more prevalent, so fairy queens are referenced across all types of material as powerful figures and rulers in fairy. In some accounts, they have known first names, while in others they are only referred to as the Queen of Elfland or Fairy Queen, or as in the ballad of Alison Gross, the Queen of the Seelie Court. They may or may not have a king ruling with them and are known to take human lovers and to favour mortal witches. In ballad and anecdotal accounts, the fairy queen is described wearing a green and white dress, riding a white horse, being extremely beautiful, sometimes compared to or confused with the Christian Queen of Heaven. They are also powerful beings who can easily use their magic to influence the human world and people within it. We're now on Fairy Raid, and that's a special type of procession. It's like a parade, a formal riding out of the good people, which was known to occur at certain times along specific fairy paths. In the ballad, or ballads, let's say, of Tam Lin and Alison Gross, we are told of the fairy race that occurs in Samhain, while the fairy faith in Celtic countries mentions a nightly fairy procession near Tara in Ireland that started just after night fell. Reverend Kirk mentions the quarter days, which in Scotland would have been February, 1st of May, 1st of August and 1st of November, as dates when the good people moved their homes, so travelling until doomsday. Being important of staying in one place, they had to find other places to ease by journeying, changing habitations, an idea that is echoed several centuries later by the Scottish writer F. Marion McNeill in her book The Silver Bough. She also describes the fairies moving home on the quarter days by riding out in procession along fairy roads. Two 19th century Scottish sources note the presence of the fairy raid on Beltane, when the sounds of horses and riders could be heard on the pathways, although they might not always be visible. Another anecdotal account from the same time, Beltane, describes the sound of hooves and bridles jangling before the parade of green-clad riders appeared. The fairy raid is not limited to these dates, however, and we see them riding out at other times as well, noted above. One Scottish source from Barra mentions midnight as the time when the host rides out, when a person is in greater danger of meeting them. The fairy raid is described as both anecdotal accounts and ballads, as a very formal affair, with the fairies riding in order and segregated by rank. This is illustrated well in a version of the Ballad of Tam Lin. Then the first company that comes towards you is published king and queen. The next company that comes towards you, it is maidens many ones. The next company that comes towards you is footmen, grooms, and squires. The next company that comes towards you, it is knights, and I'll be there. 1802. So as you can see, a fairy raid, well, it has many people. That involves maybe just a procession that are travelling somewhere, or maybe it's, I don't know, them moving homes, moving locations. So there's just many different things regarding that. Anyway, that's this part of fairy, and I'm not going to go into fairy rings, and I will explain why Oh, I did a very extensive research on fairy rings in my Fairies Through Time, and though it is still believed that some people will say a ring of mushrooms, actually, it's a scientific proven fact that those mushrooms grow like that from the rabbit droppings that are left behind when they are eating the grass and sort of going about in a circle. The fungus is grown via that, really. But there's still people that do suggest certain mushrooms growing in a ring is a fairy ring. I have other reasons that I don't believe that, and I tend to believe it's more like a crop circle, the fairy ring. But that's just my belief, my personal belief. It's not anybody else's as far as I'm aware. It might be some people's, I don't know. But I did do in Fairies Through Time, which is a playlist on my channel which you can go to. I absolutely did a section on fairy rings and how they are naturally formed, meaning that fairies do not dance in a circle to create them. Though in mythology, some people still believe it. And it's a nice thing to believe, it's beautiful, but there is a natural reason for it also. Thank you for listening to this part of the Encyclopedia of Fairies, and many blessings.
Wisteria. Energy. Twister.